Right, I'm back. So we've just finished the high poly. So now what we need to do is we need to take a look at the unwrap, like just the basics of the unwrap to get this, so that we can to get it to get it baked. So first thing, we've got both of these. So we've got them both highlighted. So, but at the minute, I think we just need to highlight maybe it's just the drum for now. Okay, and if we go to UV and we go to UV editor, um, that's opened up on my second screen, but basically I'll try and make it a bit smaller so we can maybe fit it on there a little bit as well. There are ways you can dock it and everything, but like I say, I'm keeping it simple. Yeah. So this here, at the minute, I'll keep dragging this across, make it better for you. Right, so there we go. So this here is basically the size of the barrel. So what we need to do is move that over there. It's a bit weird, I know, because it's all on one screen. I'm not used to working on one screen, but you've got to make sacrifices. So then, we've got the barrel. Yeah. And this is the whole thing. So the first thing we need to do, I'm going to angle it, however, just a little bit of an angle like that so we can see it all. And now I'm going to go up to here and I'm going to go create. And I want to do a camera-based shot. So if I do that, you can see there, it's basically done a projection of that, the angle that we've got it at on there. So that's where we're at. So what I want to do is, with the unwrap, I want to like basically cut sections off it and lay it out flat, so that we can lay a texture on it. It doesn't get distorted. There's a lot more to this, so we're going to have lectures on this. So I can't expect you to take it all in now, and I'm not expecting to show you it all now. This is just the basics. Okay, so in principle, really, with most shapes, you've got a top, you've got a bottom, and you've got the middle. So we're going to divide that into three, and that will go for a lot of things, a lot of objects that you do. It's pretty much the same principle. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to decide where I want these separate bits to be. Do I want the sides to be just the sides, or do I want a little bit going around the top or whatever? So I think what we'll do is I clicked edge there. I'm going to double click that. Yeah. And I'm going to go over to here. We've got our tools. Don't forget, these ones here are on your UV section. You can see that it's highlighted that edge there. So I'm thinking what I'm going to do is I'm going to try cutting there. We'll give this a go. So you can see here, cut and sew. I open them up and I'm going to cut. Yeah, so now I'm in here. If I right click and go to UV shell, you can see and press W, I can move things around. So that there is the top bit because I've just cut it away from the main body. Okay. And yes, it looks a completely different shape. It should be round. So what we need to do now is we need to go down to here where it says unfold. And if we click unfold, it makes it round. Okay. So for the time being, we can just move that out the way. And I think maybe what we should do is we should do the same for the bottom while we're doing this. So if I go to edge, and I'll double click on that, and I'll go back over to here to cut. Yeah. And then I go right click UV shell, and then I can move that back up here. Click on that one again, because that's oval again. So we'll go to unfold, click on that, and it unfolds it. Yeah, don't worry about the size. We'll look at that. It's not a problem. We can sort all that out. Right. So now we've got this round bit. So we need to make that so we're going to lie it down flat. So the easiest way to do that, if you imagine that this is like a tin of beans or something, yeah, and this is the label, So we've took the top of the tin off, we've took the bottom of the tin off. Now we're left with the walls of the tin as such. So if we go to edge and we double click on just one, we'll go on to this one and do it. We'll double click. You can see there it's selected one edge. Okay. So that one edge is, I suppose, like where the label would join. You're going to have joins, no matter what you do. You're going to have joins, seams as we call them. So we've got that line there. So now if I cut, yeah, and I right click and go to UV shell, I can highlight that again, and this time I'm going to unfold that one. Yeah. So yeah, that's basically as it would be like a label, isn't it? So, and to see how we're going with this, like to make sure that the whole point is that we need this to be all like not stretched and anything else. These need to be the right shapes and things like that. So what we can do now is I'll select them all. Actually, if I select that one, I'm trying to think what else we need to do on that one. We've got Great. So look, we've got a lot of things on here. I'm just checking. Don't need soft selection. We don't need any of that up there. Right. So I can shut that one. Just bear with us, guys. Yeah. Right then. So I think we are right for that. But like, while I'm thinking on this bit here as well, if we press E, we can rotate. There are other ways of doing it, but don't forget you can always manually rotate everything yourself. We've got a line and snap. Some of these you probably won't use, so I'll close the ones. We're just going to have a quick look at what we've got down here. We've got arrange and layout. We're going to use that one because that one there has got layout, which I'll give you a quick demo of that one. So if we select that, we can lay it out. The whole point when we unwrap is that everything stays within this first square at this stage in what we're doing. This is where we're going to have the texture going in. So that is where it needs to be. Now this is a little bit skew if it's a bit angled, so we can manually do that if we wanted to. Yeah, but there are other ways of doing it. The other thing you need to remember as well is you don't ever have this overlapping. Yeah, you need to have these. So press W to move it. So you need to have these so that there's gaps or padding between. And we'll show you a way of setting that up later on so that it automatically puts like a certain amount of padding, because if these touch, you're going to get like bleeding of textures between the different UV shells and stuff, which is what you don't want. So anyway, so what I was trying to say was here. So these are the same size now. Everything seems to be okay. If we go up here, you can see the check. There's what we call like a texel check, a texel texture. So if we click on that, you can see that this all needs to look uniform. It all needs to look like the squares, no stretching or anything like that. Okay, and that looks good. I can't see anything wrong with that. They're all nicely squared. So for example, if I got that and I press R and I scale that up so it's not right, you can see there, they go from squares to rectangles because it's stretched. Okay, so if I control and Z, bring it back, you can see these squares. That's how we want it. We want it so it's all squares. So that means that when we put a texture on, there's no distortion, no stretching or anything else. So ideally, that's what we want. Most of the time, this is a simple object. Most of the time on a complex object, you're going to have to compromise and you're going to find that there's certain things you'll never get so it looks all squares. And another way of doing this as well, while I think on, we highlight them all, and sometimes you can't tell if everything's square and you can't tell if there's any bits of stretch if it's a complicated object. So what you can do is you can scale it right up, yeah, and then you can see nice and small. You can see if there's any like stretching that might like be distortions in your texture as well, but there's nothing on there. Everything looks great. So I'm Control and Z, and we got that back in there. So that's pretty much. I'll knock that back off. That's pretty much the drum itself unwrapped. So if we go on to, so if we come out of that actually, and then what we'll do is we'll put them together at the end. So come out of that, I go into object mode and I select that one, the cap, and we go down onto that, and then we go back into UV editor. We bring that up again. We're going to do exactly the same again. We're going to go into create, and we're going to go camera based. So there we go. So now we've got to think, how are we going to, because this is the low poly, how are we going to do this? Press F to bring it into focus, then your pivot should be central like it wasn't before. It was like on a funny angle. Where it is now, it's all right. Right, so how are we going to unwrap this? So you've got top, bottom, sides type thing, like we did before. So if we go into here, and we double click on that, make sure it goes all the way around. Shift, double click, and there's one there. Right, so once again, if we go over to cut, and I go here, right click, UV shell, get that, press W to move it. We'll move that out of the way. We can unfold it later on. I'm not bothered about that. So now we're going to work out, how do we want this to go? Do we want this bit at the bottom separate? Or do we try and unwrap it all in one go? So I think what we do need to do is, because we've got a little bit going on underneath here, I think we need to get that, and we can cut that bit, I suppose. Cut that, and then right click, UV shell. It's not that one. Move that one there for now. It's that one there. So get rid of that. So that's the inside bit there, out, and that's the bottom bit there, out. So we're left with all of these bits here. Right, so I suppose what we can do now is we'll start breaking this down a little bit. So if we cut that all the way around, make sure it's gone all the way around, and we cut that, and we've got a UV shell, and we select that one and move it out of the way. Now you can see now this one's a little bit different because we've got like a top and a side. So the way we can do this is we can just unfold that. You're going to get some distortion, but then you've got to ask yourself, does it matter? Watch. If I press unfold, there you can see. You think, but will it matter because it's such a small object anyway? So what we can do there is we can stick the UV back on to have a look. And do you know what? That doesn't look too bad, does it? You know, there's a little bit of distortion going on here and there. But I think, you know, for what we're doing with this, we'll probably get away with it. You know, because it's such a small object, you're never going to get that close to it anyway. Right, so we can get that. We can move that up there out the way as well. So now we're left with, get rid of that, knock that off. Now we're left with these bits here. So how do we want to do this? Let's have a look. So if we go, I mean, I'm just trying this out. We're probably going to have to go back and change some of these anyway. I'm going to go on edge, and I'm going to do that one there. And I'm going to cut that. Yeah, and I'm going to go UV shell, and I'm going to select that bit, move it out. Then I'm going to, once again, I'm going to unfold that bit, move it up the outer way. Might as well unfold that one while we're on as well. Unfold, so it's circular. Yeah. Unfold. Yeah. Right, so we've got them. So now we're left with that. Yeah. See, I mean, you could, if you wanted, you could try doing that, unfold. But I don't know how it's going to react when we break it. So let's see it. We can give it a go. We can trial and error. So we've got those there. Now, if I grab them and I put into the layout, you can see there you know, yeah, you can see there that they've like all fitted into there. So what we need to do now is we need to basically, yeah, we need to get all of them, the drum bit as well, and layout. Now, the only problem that like I can see with this is, to be honest with you, is you know, we need to adjust the pattern, but we also need to take maybe because you can really fill in the texture area is what we need to do, so there's no waste or anything. But as it stands, these are really small. So I suppose what we've got to do is at some point we've got to decide, you know, is this maybe are you going to put some like manufacturing stamps on there or serial numbers on there? And if that's the case, that's really small. So it might be worth using a bit more of the space and like scaling them up. That's something that we would need to consider. Right. So what we need to do as well is we need to make sure that all of these things, like even though we may change the scale of them other ones, if we select those, make sure that they're the right scale. So what we do is we need to open up this tools, which is in your transform. And if you go down to set, and then that makes it go crazy. So that didn't work. Sorry about that there. I had brain freeze. Right, so what you need to do is to make sure that all the things on different objects are all in scale. So what you can do is, I'll give you an example here. So say that one there is too big. Okay, we'll move that there. We know that they should be the same size, so that's too big. So what you do is you select one of the items and you select get. Okay, and that'll set that number there to that size. So then what we can do is we can select all of these, and if we set, it'll make everything fit to scale, so they're all the same. Okay, if that makes sense. Now for the pattern, if I remember rightly, the pattern is up in modify, and then we can go to layout, but we go to the little box on the side. Okay. When you've got this in, it's got fixed non-manifold geometry. We'll select that, and that means that anything that needs fixing when it comes to like the way that it's all joined together, the manifolds and everything, it'll automatically do that. You may see some things happen if you've modelled it and there's no errors, nothing will happen. Pattern resolution for now, we'll leave that as it is. And shell pattern, we'll make that 3 pixels. Okay, press return, and we'll click I'll move this over, so see if we see any difference. Just click apply. Yeah. And then what we'll do is we'll grab all of them again, and we shall, it's going to be doolally there, isn't it? But then if we do layout, there should be gaps now. If you bear with me. Yeah, you can see nothing touches now. There's gaps between everything. That's the pattern between the shells. Okay, so yeah, so that's pretty much that unwrapped. You know what I mean? There's the top bit. I'm not saying we've done it right yet. We shall see when we bake it. We may have to come back in and do modifications and split some of these shells and stuff like that. We'll knock that off. Okay, so we'll knock the UV editor off. So we've got that pretty much basically unwrapped. We know we're going to have to go in and make modifications and do things. I'm going to object mode. There we go. So we've got them both. There we are. Everything's all right on that. So what do we do now? If we select both of them, and if we go, and what we're going to do now is we're going to soften all of the edges, right? So I'll go in that bit again. So shift, right click, and if we go to soften harden, and then we go up to soften edges, right? And I click on there, and what I'll do is if I go up here, you shall see that it's made everything go like lower definition. You know, there's not a lot going on. It's a bit blurry and stuff. That's because we've taken all the hard edges away. We'll discuss all of that later. The difference between hard edges and soft edges. It'll be we'll cover all of that in the lectures when we go into this in a bit more detail. As you can see there, so that's changed it quite a bit. Okay, put that back on so you can see what we're doing. So as a rule, what we do is we'll soften all the edges before we try the bake. So where are we at now? Okay, we've got the low poly, we've unwrapped it, we have softened all the edges, and now we've got the high poly. So I think basically what we're ready to do now is we are ready to export these out and give like a test bake, which it's bound to throw up errors. So we'll take it from there and we'll see what we can do.